He thought I was just a weak housewife. A burden now. He is eating scraps from a garbage can. And I own the building he is sleeping behind. When our son was dying, seizing with a 105-degree fever. I begged him for help. He laughed. He said that, don't bother me. He was too busy cutting a birthday cake for his mistress. He thought he was the powerful CEO, the genius. But he made one fatal mistake. He never asked where the money came from. The company. The mansion. Even the watch on his wrist. It all belonged to me. He destroyed my family. So I froze his life. Watch how I turned his empire into dust in less than 24 hours. 105. The numbers on the digital thermometer were not just numbers. They were a siren. They were a red screaming warning that shattered the silence of the master bedroom. 105 degrees Fahrenheit. Amara Sterling stared at the small screen. Her hand was trembling so violently that the device almost slipped from her grip. The plastic felt cold against her sweating palm. But her son's skin felt like fire. Little Zion lay curled in the center of the massive king-sized bed. He looked so small against the silk sheets. His 4-year-old chest rose and fell in short, jagged rhythms. It sounded like a small animal trapped in a box fighting for air. Amara reached out. She touched his forehead. It burned her fingertips. The heat radiating from his small body was unnatural. It was terrifying. Zion. Baby, can you hear Mama? She whispered the words, but there was no answer. Only a low, guttural moan escaped his cracked lips. His eyes were half open, but he was not seeing her. He was looking at something far away. Something only the fever could show him. Fear, cold and sharp. It pierced through Amara's heart. She scrambled off the bed. Her bare feet hit the thick carpet. She ran to the bathroom. The sound of her own breathing was loud in her ears. She grabbed a washcloth. She turned the faucet. The water rushed out, cold. She needed cold. She wrung out the cloth and ran back to the bed. She dabbed his forehead, his neck, his underarms. The heat from his body warmed the cold cloth in seconds. It was like trying to put out a forest fire with a single cup of water. Thunder rumbled outside. It was a deep, vibrating growl that shook the window panes. The Georgia sky had opened up. A torrential storm was hammering against the roof of their estate in Buckhead. Rain slashed against the glass like thousands of tiny knives. The wind howled through the chimneys, but inside the room the silence was heavier. The air smelled of sickness. It smelled of sour sweat and impending disaster. Suddenly, Zion's body went rigid. His back arched off the mattress. His eyes rolled back into his head, showing only the whites. Amara screamed. The sound tore from her throat before she could stop it. Seizure, her mind flashed back to a first aid class she took years ago. Turn him on his side. Do not put anything in his mouth. Keep him safe. Her hands moved on instinct. She grabbed his small shoulders. She pulled him onto his side. She cushioned his head with her own arm. She felt his muscles spasming against her. Violent shudders that terrified her to her core. Please, baby, don't leave me. Stay with Mama. Stay with me, Zion. Tears blurred her vision. They were hot and salty, running into her mouth. She felt helpless. She was the heiress to the Sterling fortune. She had millions of dollars in trust funds. She had connections. She had power. But in this moment, she was nothing. She was just a mother watching her child fade away. She needed help. She needed a hospital. She needed Darius. Darius, her husband, the father of her child. She reached for her phone on the nightstand. Her fingers were slippery with sweat and tears. She unlocked the screen. The light from the phone was blinding in the dim room. She found his contact. Hubby. She pressed the call button. She put the phone to her ear and held Zion with her other hand. The phone rang. Ring. Ring. Pick up. Please, Darius, pick up. Our son is dying. No answer. The call went to voicemail. His smooth, professional voice filled her ear. You have reached Darius Thorne, CEO of Thorne Enterprises. I am currently busy making history. Leave a message. She hung up. She dialed again. Outside, a flash of lightning illuminated the room. For a split second, everything was stark white. She saw Zion's face clearly. It was pale, ashen. His lips were turning a tint of blue. Panic exploded in her chest. It felt like a physical blow. She bit her lip hard enough to draw blood. The metallic taste of copper filled her mouth. She dialed a third time. This time the ringing stopped. The call connected. But there was no hello. Instead, there was a sigh. A heavy, irritated sigh. The sound of a man who has been interrupted. What? His voice was raspy, impatient. It dripped with annoyance. Do you have any idea what time it is, Amara? Why do you keep calling me? I am in the middle of a critical negotiation. Amara choked back a sob. She tried to speak, but her voice was fractured. Broken into pieces by fear. Darius, please, come home. It is Zion. She gasped for air. His fever is 105. He is having seizures. He is convulsing, Darius. I am so scared. Please come take us to the hospital. The ambulance will take too long in this storm. I need you. She waited. She expected to hear the sound of a chair scraping back. She expected to hear him running. She expected him to shout that he was on his way. Silence. Then a scoff. Cold and cruel. A fever. Again, his tone was accusatory, as if Zion had chosen to get sick on purpose to inconvenience him. He'd just had a fever last month. What kind of mother are you, Amara? You are always letting him get sick. Can you not handle a simple cold without calling me? The words hit her like physical slaps. Darius, this is not a cold. He is unconscious. I cannot leave, Amara. His voice was firm. Final. I am with international partners. This deal is worth millions. If I walk out now, I lose everything. Call the pediatrician. Call an Uber. Handle it yourself. That is your job. You are the wife. But the storm, Amara pleaded. Her pride was gone. She was begging. The roads are flooded. No Uber is coming. Darius, please. Wait. She stopped. She held her breath. She heard something. It was faint, but it was there. Background noise. Darius said he was in a meeting. A business meeting. Amara expected to hear the rustle of papers, the murmur of serious men discussing stocks, the low hum of an office HVAC system. But that is not what she heard. She heard the clinking of crystal, the sharp, high-pitched sound of a champagne flute toasting against another. She heard music. Not office silence. It was smooth jazz. A saxophone playing a slow, seductive melody. And then she heard the voice. It was a woman's voice. Soft, sweet, like syrup. Darius, baby, come back to the table. The wax is melting. Amara froze. Her heart stopped beating for a second. She knew that voice. It was a voice she had heard a dozen times in her own hallway. Kiara Vance, Darius's executive assistant. The young, innocent girl who always smiled too brightly. The girl who called Amara, Mrs. Thorne, with quiet respect. Amara pressed the phone harder against her ear. She needed to be sure. Come, blow out the candles, Darius. Everyone is waiting for the birthday boy. Birthday. Amara's mind raced. Today was October 20th. It was not Darius's birthday. His birthday was in June. Then she remembered. 6 months ago, she had approved the expense report for the office party budget. October 20th. It was Kiara Vance's birthday. The realization washed over her. Cold water. He was not in a meeting. He was not with international partners. He was not making history. He was at a party. Daria seemed to have forgotten the phone was still in his hand. Or maybe he just did not care. Maybe he wanted her to hear Dada's voice returned. The irritation was gone. It was replaced by a tone Amara had not heard in years. Tenderness, warmth, desire. Coming right now, babe. Babe. He called her babe. Happy. Birthday beautiful. The words were knives. They sliced through the connection. They traveled miles through the storm and stabbed Amara directly in the chest while his son lay seizing in a dark room, while his wife begged for help. Darius Thorne was singing happy birthday to his mistress. A scream built up in Amara's throat. A scream of pure primal rage. Darius, you, she yelled into the phone, but there was no answer. Click, the line went dead. He had hung up. Amara stared at the phone. The screen went black. The silence returned to the room. But it was different now. The fear was still there, but something else had joined it. Hate, top pure. White-hot hatred. She looked down at Zion. The seizure had stopped. He was limp now. His breathing was shallow and fast. He was fading. She did not have time to cry. She did not have time to scream. She did not have time to mourn the marriage that had just died on the other end of that phone line. Amara dropped the phone. It landed silently on the carpet. She stood up. Her legs were shaking, but her mind was suddenly clear. Sharp as a diamond, she grabbed the thick wool coat from the chair. She wrapped Zion in it, bundling him like a precious package. She scooped him up into her arms. He was heavy. Dead weight. But she did not feel it. She ran. She ran out of the master suite. She ran down the grand spiral staircase. Her bare feet slapped against the cold marble of the foyer. The house was dark, massive, empty. 10,000 square feet of luxury, and not a single soul to help her. She reached the heavy oak front door. She threw it open. The wind hit her instantly. It was a physical force pushing her back. The rain was torrential. It soaked her thin silk pajamas in seconds. It plastered her hair to her skull, but she did not stop. She stepped out into the storm. She clutched Zion tighter to her chest, shielding his face from the stinging rain. "Hang on, baby. Mama is here. Mama has you." She ran toward the garage. The gravel of the driveway dug into her bare feet. Sharp stones cut her skin. She felt the sting, but she ignored it. She reached the garage door keypad. She punched in the code. The heavy door rumbled up. She stepped inside. Ready to throw Zion into the back seat of her car, she stopped, her breath caught in her throat. The garage was empty. The space where the black Maybach usually sat was empty. That was Darius's car. She expected that, but the space next to it was also empty. Her car. The red Porsche. The car her father had bought for her. The car that was in her name. Gone. She stared at the oil stain on the concrete floor. Then she remembered. This afternoon, Darius had kissed her cheek. He had smiled that charming smile. "My car is in the shop, Amara. Can I borrow the Porsche? I need to impress these clients. It is just for a few hours." He had taken her car. He had taken her car to drive his mistress to her birthday party. He had taken the family chauffeur. He had left his wife and sick child stranded in a mansion miles from the city center. In the middle of a storm, with no way out, Amara turned back to the driveway. The main gate was a quarter-mile away. The road beyond that was deserted. She looked down at Zion. He was so pale in the darkness. She had no car, no driver, no husband. She only had her legs and the burning fire of a mother's love. She stepped back out into the rain. She began to run. The rain was not water. It was ice. It fell in sheets, heavy, relentless. It hammered against the dark pavement of the driveway. Each drop stung Amara's skin like a needle. She ran, her lungs burned. The cold air tore at her throat. It tasted of metal and ozone. Zion was a dead weight in her arms. He was 40 pounds of limp, feverish heat. He was slipping. The wool coat was soaked through. It smelled of wet sheep and fear. Amara clutched him tighter. Her muscles screamed. Her arms shook. But she did not stop. She could not stop. The driveway of the estate was a quarter-mile long. It was lined with ancient oak trees. Tonight they looked like monsters. Their branches thrashed in the wind. They reached down to grab her. To trip her, lightning flashed. A blinding white crack that split the sky. For a second, the world was illuminated. Amara saw the jagged stones of the path. She saw the puddles that looked like black oil. She saw the blood on her own feet. She had lost a slipper back at the house. She was running barefoot. The gravel sliced her soles. She left red footprints in the mud. But she felt no pain. The adrenaline was a drug. It numbed her body. But it could not numb her mind. Her mind was a torture chamber. It kept replaying the sound. The sound from the phone, "Happy birthday." The words echoed in her skull. They were louder than the thunder. "Happy birthday, babe." She saw the image in her head. She saw Darius. He was wearing his navy suit. The one she picked out for him. He was holding a glass of vintage wine. The wine she bought for their anniversary. He was smiling. That charming smile that had once made her fall in love. He was looking at Kiara. Kiara, the girl with the innocent eyes. The girl who brought Amara coffee. The girl who played with Zion in the office lobby. Amara gritted her teeth. A low animal growl escaped her throat. They were warm. They were dry. They were laughing. They were blowing out candles, while her son was dying in her arms. The injustice was physically nauseating. It twisted in her stomach like a knife. How could he? How could he choose a slice of cake over his own flesh and blood? Amara's foot hit a loose cobblestone. She pitched forward, no dot. She twisted her body in midair. She turned her back to the ground. She took the impact dot smack. Her knees slammed into the stone. The sound of bone hitting rock was sickening. A sharp white bolt of agony shot up her leg. It exploded in her brain. She cried out. A short, sharp yelp. She landed in a puddle. The freezing water soaked her instantly. It seeped into her clothes. It chilled her to the bone. Zion stirred in her arms. He let out a weak whimper. Amara scrambled up. She ignored the screaming pain in her knee. She ignored the blood running down her shin, mixing with the rainwater. She checked. Zion. He was still breathing, shallow, rattling breaths. "I am sorry, baby. Mama is clumsy. Mama is sorry." She forced herself to stand. Her leg buckled. She locked her knee. She forced it to hold her weight. She started running again. She had to reach the main road. She had to find help. Every step was a battle. Every breath was a war. But the anger fueled her. It was a hot coal burning in her chest. It kept her warm in the freezing storm. Darius thought she was weak. He thought she was just a pampered heiress who played house. He thought she would sit by the window and cry. He was wrong. The woman who sat by the window was dead. She died the moment he hung up that phone. The woman running through the storm was someone else. Someone new. Someone dangerous. She saw lights ahead, the main road. Relief washed over her. It made her dizzy. She pushed harder. She burst through the estate gates. The road was dark, slick with rain. A pair of headlights cut through the gloom. A car. Amara stepped onto the asphalt. She waved her free arm frantically. "Stop! Please stop!" The car did not slow down. It sped up. The tires sprayed a wave of dirty water over her. The driver honked. A long, angry blast. "Get out of the road, you crazy woman!" The car disappeared into the night. The red taillights faded like dying embers. Amara stood there, stunning in her soaking silk pajamas, holding a dying child. Another car approached. A yellow taxi. Hope surged. Taxi. "Help! Over here!" She screamed against the wind. The taxi slowed down. The driver peered out through the rain-streaked window. He saw her wild hair. He saw her bare, bloody feet. He saw the manic look in her eyes. He shook his head. He flicked the lock on his door. Click. He drove past. He thought she was a junkie, a madwoman, a danger. He did not see Amara Sterling. He did not see the billionaire heiress. He only saw a desperate woman in the rain. And in this city, desperation was invisible. Amara fell to her knees. She looked up at the sky. The rain fell into her eyes. It mingled with her tears. She looked down at Zion. His face was gray in the streetlight. His lips were blue. He was so cold. God, please do not take him. Take everything else. Take my money. Take my pride. Take my life. But save him. A rumble shook the ground. It was not thunder. It was an engine. A battered old delivery truck chugged around the bend. It had one headlight out. The grill was rusted. It looked like a beast from a bygone era. It slowed down. The brakes squealed. A high-pitched screech. The truck pulled over to the curb. The passenger window rolled down. A manual crank. It took agonizing seconds. A man leaned out. He was middle-aged. His face was lined with grease and exhaustion. He wore a faded blue cap. Ma M. His voice was rough, gravelly, but it was not cruel. What are you doing out here? You are going to freeze to death. Amara scrambled to the window. She clutched the door handle. Please, my son. He is sick, high fever, seizures. I need a hospital. Please, sir. I will pay you. I will give you anything. Just drive. The man looked at her. He looked at the bundle in her arms. He saw the small pale hand of the boy. He did not ask for money. He did not ask who she was. He did not ask why she was barefoot. He just nodded. Get in. Hurry. He leaned over and popped the lock. Amara threw the door open. She climbed into the cab. The inside of the truck smelled of old motor oil and stale peppermint. The heater was blasting full force. It was the most beautiful feeling in the world. She pulled the door shut. The slam shut out the storm. The silence of the cab wrapped around her. The driver did not waste time. He slammed the truck into gear. The engine roared. They peeled away from the curb. Don't worry, ma'am. I know a shortcut. Providence General is 10 minutes away. Hang tight. Amara huddled in the seat. She pulled Zion close to her chest. She rocked him gently. You are safe now, baby. We are going. We are almost there. She looked out the window. The rain blurred the world outside into streaks of gray and black. She saw her reflection in the glass. Her hair was matted. Her face was streaked with mud. Her eyes were hollow, but deep in those dark pupils there was a spark. A cold, hard glint. She thought of the warm office where Darius was sitting. She thought of the jazz music. She thought of the cake. She touched the pocket of her soaking coat. Her phone was gone. She must have dropped it in the garage. It didn't matter. She didn't need a phone to remember. Every word he said was burned into her memory. Every laugh. Every excuse. I cannot leave. I am in a meeting. Lies. All lies. The truck hit a pothole. Amara flinched. But she held Zion steady. The driver glanced at her. Is he okay? Amara looked at her son. His chest was still rising. It was weak. But it was there. He is fighting. She whispered the words. He is a fighter. Like his mother. The driver nodded. He pressed his foot down harder on the gas. The old truck shuddered, but it picked up speed. Amara closed her eyes. She did not pray for Darius to come. She did not pray for her marriage to be saved. She prayed for strength. Because when Zion woke up, when this nightmare ended, she had work to do. She had an empire to reclaim. She had a traitor to punish, and Darius Thorne had no idea what was coming for him. The lights of the hospital appeared in the distance. A beacon of white in the darkness. Amara sat up straighter. She wiped the rain from her face. She was done crying. Asterisk tears were for victims. And Amara Sterling was done being a victim. The truck screeched into the emergency bay. Before it even came to a full stop, Amara had the door open. Thank you, she gasped the words to the driver. He just nodded. Go, save him. She jumped out. Her bare feet hit the concrete. She ran toward the sliding glass doors. The automatic sensors picked her up. The doors hissed open. Bright fluorescent light flooded her vision. The smell of antiseptic hit her nose. She ran to the front desk. Help, my son. Help us. Nurses came running. A gurney appeared. Voices shouted codes. Amara watched them take Zion from her arms. Her hands were suddenly empty. They were shaking. She stood alone in the bright hallway. Water dripped from her clothes, creating a puddle around her feet. She looked down at her left hand. Her wedding ring. The massive diamond Darius had given her. It sparkled under the harsh lights. It looked like a shackle. Slowly, deliberately. Amara reached over with her right hand. She gripped the ring. She twisted it. It was tight. But she pulled until her skin turned red, that it slid off. She held it in her palm. It felt heavy, cold, dead. She looked at the ER doors where her son had disappeared. Then she looked at the ring. The storm outside was over. But the storm inside Amara Sterling had just begun. The nurse looked at me. She saw a beggar. She did not know she was looking at the owner of this hospital. The fluorescent lights of the waiting room buzzed. It was a low electrical hum that drilled into my skull. The air smelled of floor wax and rubbing alcohol. It was the smell of sickness, the smell of fear. I sat on a hard plastic chair. My silk pajamas were ruined. They were stained with mud and dried blood. My hair was a tangled mess of wet curls. I was shivering. The adrenaline from the run had faded. Now there was only the cold. People stared. A mother pulled her child closer as she walked past me. A janitor swept the floor near my feet. He looked at me with pity. He thought I was homeless. He thought I was a junkie who had stumbled in from the storm. I did not blame them. I looked down at my hands. They were scraped and dirty. My fingernails were broken. The ER doors opened. A doctor stepped out. He looked exhausted. He scanned the room. Family of Zion Thorne. I stood up. My legs were stiff. My knee throbbed with a dull, heavy ache. I am his mother. The doctor looked at me. His eyes lingered on my bare feet. Then on the mud on my expensive coat. He frowned. Miss Thorne. Your son is stable. The words made. My knees weak. Stable. The most beautiful word in the English language. He has acute pneumonia, complicated by a febrile seizure. His temperature is down, but his lungs are weak. We need to keep him in the ICU for 48 hours. He paused. He looked around the empty space behind me. Is the father here? We need insurance information. And consent forms. The question hung in the air. The father. I let out a short, bitter laugh. It sounded jagged in the quiet room. The father is busy. He is at a birthday party. The doctor blinked. He looked confused, then disgusted. He thought I was delirious. He thought I was a bad mother making excuses for a deadbeat boyfriend. Do you have an insurance card? I shook my head. I left everything. My purse, my wallet, my phone. We had to leave in a hurry. The nurse behind the desk sighed. She typed something aggressively on her keyboard. Her nama tag said Brenda. She had a face that said she had seen it all and she was tired of it. Look, honey, this is a private hospital. We can stabilize him. But without insurance or a deposit, we cannot keep him in the VIP wing. We will have to transfer him to the county ward once. He is movable. The county ward, overcrowded, understaffed, noisy. No. I said it softly. Excuse me. I walked to the desk. I placed my hands on the cool laminate counter. I leaned in. My son is not going anywhere. He stays here. In the best room. With the best specialists. Brenda laughed. It was a dry, cracking sound. And how are you going to pay for that? With your good looks? She gestured to my muddy clothes. I did not flinch. I did not yell. I just looked at her. I stared into her eyes until her smile faded. Until she shifted uncomfortably in her chair. I need to make a call. I pointed to the black landline phone sitting on her desk. Brenda hesitated. She looked at the security guard standing by the door. Then she shrugged. Make it quick. I picked up the receiver. It felt heavy. Solid. I did not dial 911. I did not dial Darius. I dialed a number. I had not called in 5 years. I closed my eyes as I pressed the buttons. My fingers remembered the pattern. It was a number that opened doors. A number that could start wars. Or end them. The line rang once. Twice. Sterling residence. The voice on the other end was deep, gravelly. Familiar. It. Was Otis the head of security for my father? Otis. It is Amara. Silence. Complete. Absolute silence on the line. Miss Amara. His voice cracked. It lost its professional edge. Is that really you? The chairman has been waiting. He has been waiting for 5 years. Put him on, Otis. Now I waited. My heart hammered against my ribs. For 5 years I had hidden. I had run away from this life. I wanted to be normal. I wanted to be loved for me, not for my money, not for my name, so I became Amara Thorne, the housewife, the supporter, the shadow behind the great Darius Thorne. I gave Darius everything. I used my inheritance to fund his company covertly. I bought the house. I bought the cars. I paid the bills. I let him think he was the king. I clipped my own wings so he could fly. And how did he repay me? With betrayal. With cruelty. With a dial tone while our son was dying, the line clicked. Amara. My father's voice. Langston Sterling. The Lion of Atlanta. He sounded older, tired, but the power was still there. It vibrated through the phone line. Daddy. The word came out as a whisper. A broken child's plea. My throat tightened. Tears pricked my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not here. Not in front of Brenda. Daddy. I was wrong. I took a deep breath. The air hissed through my teeth. Asterisk, I was so wrong. He is not who I thought he was. Langston did not say, I told you so. He did not scold me. He did not ask questions. He only asked one thing. Where are you? Providence General. Zion is sick. He is in the ICU. Is he safe? He is stable. But Daddy. My voice hardened. The steel returned to my spine. Darius left us. He left us to die in the storm. He is with a mistress. He took the cars. He cut me off. I felt the temperature in the room drop. I could feel my father's rage radiating through the wire. Say the word. Amara. Just say the word. I looked at my reflection in the glass partition. I saw the mud, the blood, the exhaustion. But under that layer of filth, I saw something else. I saw a Sterling. I saw the woman I was born to be. The woman I had tried to kill to save a marriage that was already a corpse. I gripped the phone tighter. My knuckles turned white. Daddy. Activate Protocol 0. Protocol 0. It was not just a phrase. It was a nuclear option. It was a contingency plan my father's lawyers had drawn up 5 years ago. Just in case. It meant total liquidation. It meant freezing every asset, every account, every credit card, every loan. It meant calling in the debts. It meant that Thorne Enterprises, which ran on Sterling Capital, would be paralyzed instantly. It meant Darius Thorne would wake up tomorrow morning not as a CEO, but as a destitute man. I heard my father inhale sharply. Are you sure, Amara? Once we start this, there is no going back. We will burn his world to the ground. I thought of Zion's small body shaking on the bed. I thought of the rain. I thought of the happy birthday song. Burn it. Asterisk, I said it with zero hesitation. Burn it all down. Leave him nothing. Not a penny. Not a roof. Not a name. Done. My father's voice was like a gavel striking a block. I am coming. I am bringing the legal team. And Amara. Yes, Daddy. Raise your head. You are a Sterling. Do not let anyone see you cry. The line went dead. I hung up the phone. I stood there for a moment. My hand resting on the receiver, I felt a shift. A physical change in the atmosphere. The fear was gone. The anxiety was gone. In their place was power. Cold, dark power. I turned to Brenda. She was staring at me. Her mouth was slightly open. She had heard the tone. She had heard the name Sterling. Brenda. I said her name softly. She blinked. Yes. My father is Langston Sterling. He is on his way. He will be here in 20 minutes with the chairman of the hospital board. Brenda went pale. Her face turned the color of old paper. Sterling, as in the Sterling wing. Yes, I leaned closer. I suggest you prepare the VIP transfer papers now. And Brenda. She swallowed hard. Yes, ma'am. Get me a bottle of water and a chair, a comfortable one. I walked back to the waiting area. I did not sit in the plastic chair. I stood in the center of the room. I waited. 10 minutes later, the automatic doors slid open. They did not just open. They flew apart. 2 men in black suits walked in first. They were massive. They wore earpieces. They scanned the room with laser focus. Then came the legal team. Malik Jeff, my childhood friend. My father's shark. He was holding a briefcase that looked like it contained codes to a missile silo. Asterisk, and then my father Langston Sterling walked with a cane, but he did not need it. He used it as a weapon. He wore a charcoal wool coat. His silver hair was perfectly coiffed. His eyes were blue ice. The hospital administrator was running behind, him trying to keep up. Mr. Sterling, please, we did not know. If we had known it was your grandson, ... My father ignored him. He walked straight to me. He stopped. He looked at my bare feet. He looked at the bruises on my arms, his jaw clenched. A muscle ticked in his cheek. He took off his coat. He wrapped it around my shoulders. It was heavy. Warm, it smelled of cedar and expensive tobacco. He kissed my forehead. I have you, he whispered. We have Zion. He turned to the administrator. My grandson is in a general admission bed. Why? The administrator stuttered. He was sweating. We were just following protocol, sir. Lack of insurance, ... Change the protocol. My father's voice did not rise. It didn't have to ... move him to the presidential suite. Now get the chief of pediatrics out of bed. I want him here in 10 minutes. If anything happens to that boy, I will buy this hospital just to fire you. The administrator ran. He actually ran. Malik stepped forward. He looked at me with soft eyes. Amara. He handed me a tablet. It has begun. The bank has executed the freeze. Citadel Capital has pulled the funding. Darius's credit cards are declining as we speak. I looked at the screen. I saw the numbers. Red lines, zeros. I saw the notification log. Thorne Enterprises. Corporate account, locked. Darius Thorne personal checking. Frozen, platinum, MX. Cancelled. It was happening. I felt a dark satisfaction curl in my gut. Where is he now? I asked. Malik checked his watch. Based on the tracking data from his car, which is legally your car. He is still at the St. Regis Hotel, probably ordering room service. I smiled. It was not a nice smile. Let him eat. I pulled my father's coat tighter around me. Let him enjoy his last meal as a rich man, because tomorrow breakfast will be served cold. I looked at my father. Daddy, I need to go home. He nodded to the estate. No. I shook my head to the Thorne mansion. I need to pack. I need to get Zion's things. And there is something else I need to do. What is that? I need to leave a message. I walked toward the exit. The bodyguards fell into step behind me. The hospital staff parted like the Red Sea. I was no longer the muddy, barefoot woman. I was Amara Sterling. And I was going to war. The automatic doors opened into the night. The rain had stopped. The air was crisp and cold. A line of black SUVs idled at the curb. I climbed into the back of the first one. The leather seat was soft. Malik sat next to me. He opened his briefcase. He pulled out a document. The divorce papers. Drafted exactly as you requested 5 years ago. Just in case. I took the pen. A heavy gold fountain pen. I looked at the signature line. 5 years ago, I was a girl in love. I thought I would never need this. Now I uncapped the pen. The ink was black, permanent. I signed my name, Amara Sterling. The letters were sharp, angular. I handed the papers back to Malik. Serve him. When? Tomorrow morning. I looked out the window as the car pulled away. The city lights blurred into streaks of gold. Put them on the refrigerator. Malik paused. The refrigerator. Yes. I remembered Darius's habit. The first thing he did when he came home hungover. He went to the fridge for cold water. Put the asset freeze notice and the divorce papers on the fridge. I wanted it to be the first thing he saw. I wanted him to reach for water and find only dust. The car accelerated. We headed toward the mansion. The dragon had woken up, and she was hungry. The sun rose over Atlanta. It was not a gentle sunrise. It was blinding. The light cut through the heavy velvet curtains of the St. Regis suite. It hit Darius Thorne's face like a physical slap. He groaned. He rolled over. His head felt like it was split in two. A hangover. The price of $1,000 bottle of champagne. The price of celebrating freedom. He sat up. The room spun. The air smelled of stale alcohol and expensive perfume. Kiara's perfume, sweet, floral, cloying. He looked at the space beside him. Empty. Kiara had left early. She had a spa appointment. Or maybe she just didn't want to see him hungover. Darius smiled. A crooked, arrogant smirk. He stretched his arms. He felt good. Despite the headache, he felt like a king. Yesterday was perfect. He had closed the deal with the international partners. Or at least he told Amara he did. He had celebrated his beautiful assistant's birthday. And he had successfully ignored his nagging wife, Amara. The thought of her soured his mood. She was probably at home. Right now, crying, making a scene about Zion's fever. Women were so dramatic. A fever? Kids get fevers all the time. It builds character. He stood up. He walked to the bathroom. He splashed cold water on his face. He looked in the mirror. He saw a CEO, a visionary, a man who deserved everything he had. He did not see a monster. Monsters do not wear Armani suits. He dressed quickly. His shirt was rumpled. There was a faint lipstick stain on the collar, red like blood. He didn't care. Amara wouldn't notice. She never noticed anything. She was too busy being a mother to notice her husband was a lion. He walked out of the hotel. The doorman tipped his hat. "Good morning, Mr. Thorne. Shall I call your driver?" Darius patted his pockets. "No. My driver is unavailable." He remembered Amara had the car. Or maybe Otis took it. It didn't matter. He would take a taxi. It was beneath him, but he wanted to get home and change before going to the office. He raised a hand. A yellow cab pulled up. Darius slid into the back seat. The leather was cracked. It smelled of old cigarettes and pine air freshener. He wrinkled his nose. Buckhead Estate. He barked the order. He didn't look at the driver. The ride was a blur of traffic and throbbing headache. Darius checked his phone. Dead battery. He had forgotten to charge it last night. Perfect. Peace and quiet. The taxi slowed down as it approached the heavy iron gates of his mansion. "That's 1850, the driver said. He was a large man with a thick neck and tired eyes. Darius scoffed. $18. He spent more than that on his morning coffee. He reached into his jacket pocket. He pulled out his wallet. It was made of Italian leather, soft as butter. He flipped it open. He ignored the cash. He didn't carry small bills. He only carried hundreds. And he didn't want to break 100 for a taxi ride. He pulled out the card, the black card, the Centurion, the symbol of ultimate status. Heavy, titanium, cold to the touch. Keep the change. He handed the card to the driver with a dismissive wave. He didn't even look at him. He was already reaching for the door handle. The driver took the card. He swiped it through the portable machine. Darius waited for the beep. The sound of approval. Beep, beep, beep. Asterisk, a low, harsh tone. The driver frowned. He looked at the screen. Then he looked at Darius. It didn't go through. Darius froze. His hand hovered over the door handle. What? He turned his head slowly. The movement made his headache spike. It was declined. Darius laughed. It was a short disbelief bark. Don't be ridiculous. That is an unlimited card. There is no limit. Run it again. Your machine is probably broken. Cheap technology. The driver's eyes narrowed. He didn't like the tone. He swiped it. Again, aggressively. Beep, beep, beep. Declined. The red letters flashed on the small gray screen. Darius felt a prickle of heat on his neck. It wasn't the sun. It was irritation. Try this one. He pulled out another card. The Platinum Visa. Swipe. Beep, beep, beep. Declined. Darius. Single quotes as heart skipped a beat. A single erratic thump. This was impossible. He had used these cards yesterday. He bought the champagne. He bought the diamond necklace for Kiara. They worked fine. He pulled out a third card. The corporate gold card. Swipe. Beep, beep, beep. Invalid. Merchant code. Account frozen. The driver turned around fully now. His face was not friendly. "Look, buddy, I don't have all day. Do you have money or not?" Darius felt his face flush. The heat rose from his collar to his cheeks. He looked out the window. The gardener was working on the hedges. He hoped the man didn't see him. "Do you know who I am?" Darius hissed. His voice was low, dangerous. "I am the CEO of Thorne Enterprises. I could buy your entire taxi company with the change in my sofa." The driver was unimpressed. "I don't care if you are the King of England. The meter says 1850. Pay up or I call the cops. Cops." The word hung in the air. Darius Thorne, arrested over an $18 taxi fare. It would be on the news in an hour. He gritted his teeth. He ground them together until his jaw ached. He opened his wallet again. He looked at the cash slot. He had $300 in crispy new bills. He snatched a $20 bill. He threw it at the driver. It fluttered down onto the passenger seat like a dead leaf. "Keep it." He spat the words. He kicked the door open. He stumbled out onto the pavement. He didn't wait for the receipt. He didn't wait for the gate to open. He punched the code into the keypad. 12020. Kiara's birthday. The gate buzzed. It swung open slowly. Darius walked up the long driveway. The walk of shame. His head pounded with every step. The sun felt heavier now, oppressive. The house loomed ahead. It was a beautiful mansion, colonial style. White pillars, massive windows. But something was wrong. It was quiet. Too quiet. Usually at this time of the morning, the house was alive. He should hear the vacuum cleaner. He should hear Amara in the kitchen blending smoothies. He should hear Zion running down the hallway laughing. Today. Silence. The kind of silence you find in a graveyard. Or a museum. Darius unlocked the front door. He pushed it open. "Amara?" He called out. His voice echoed in the grand foyer. It bounced off the marble floors and the high ceilings. No answer. "Amara? I am home. Stop hiding." He walked into the living room. It was spotless. The cushions were fluffed. The magazines were stacked perfectly. It looked like a showroom. It looked like no one lived there. A cold knot of unease began to form in his stomach. Where were they? Maybe she took Zion to the doctor. Yes, that must be it. She was overreacting again. He loosened his tie. He threw his jacket on the sofa. He needed water. His throat felt like sandpaper. He needed to wash the taste of failure out of his mouth. He walked to the kitchen. The kitchen was vast. Gleaming stainless steel appliances. White marble countertops. He walked to the refrigerator. The massive double door. Sub-0. He reached for the handle, then he stopped. There was something on the door. Oh, a single sheet of white paper. It was held in place by a magnet. A cheerful yellow magnet shaped like a sun. Zion's magnet. Darius frowned. He leaned in. He squinted against the headache. The paper was official. It had a header. A logo he recognized. Sterling Industries Legal Department. Notice of asset freeze and debt demand. Darius blinked. He rubbed his eyes. He thought he was hallucinating. He read the first line. To Mr. Darius Thorne. Re. Immediate freeze of all personal and corporate accounts. He read it again. And again. The words did not change. Pursuant to the terms of the investment agreement with Citadel Capital, violation of ethical conduct clause. Spousal risk protocol activated. Protocol 0. He reached out. His hand was shaking. He ripped the paper off the fridge. What is this joke? He crumpled the paper in his fist. Amara. He roared her name. Amara. Silence answered him. He ran to the counter where he kept his charger. He plugged in his phone. It booted up. The Apple logo appeared. Then the vibration started. Buzz. Buzz, buzz, buzz. It was violent. Continuous. A flood of notifications cascaded down the screen. Bank of America. Alert. Your account ending in 4490 has been frozen. Chase Sapphire account closed. Contact issuer. Wells Fargo, mortgage payment declined. Insufficient funds. Thorne Enterprises HR. Urgent. Payroll bounce. Please advise. Missed call, CFO 12. Missed call, supplier 8. Missed call, Amara 0. Darius stared at the screen. The light reflected in his wide, terrified eyes. His knees gave out. He grabbed the edge of the granite island to steady himself. This was not a joke. Amara had done this, but how? She was just a housewife. She didn't know how to run a company. She didn't know what an asset freeze was unless she wasn't just a housewife. Unless she had been playing him for 5 years. Panic, cold, and sharp. It pierced his hangover fog. Money. He needed money. He couldn't use his cards. He couldn't access the bank. But he had cash to safe. In his study. Behind the painting of the ship. He kept emergency cash there. Gold bars, watches. He pushed off the counter. He ran. He scrambled up the stairs. He tripped on the top step but caught himself. He didn't care. He burst into the study. He tore the painting off the wall. It crashed to the floor. The frame shattered. He didn't look at it. He spun the dial on the wall. Safe. Right to 30. Left 2. 15. Right to 99. Click. The heavy steel door swung open. Darius reached inside. His fingers clawed at the dark space. He expected to feel stacks of cash. The cold metal of gold bars. The velvet boxes of Patek Philippe watches. He felt nothing. Air. Empty space. He grabbed his phone. He turned on the flashlight. He shone it into the safe. It was stripped bare. Cleaned out except for one thing. A small yellow sticky note stuck to the back wall. Darius leaned in. His breath hitched in his throat. He recognized the handwriting. Elegant, looped Amara's handwriting. He read the note. The money used to buy this gold was mine. I am taking it back. The safe is yours. You can store air in it. Darius stared at the note. He felt the blood drain from his face. His hands went numb. The phone slipped from his fingers and hit the floor with a crack. He backed away. He hit the desk and slid down to the floor. He sat there in the silence of his empty mansion. The sun streamed in through the window, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. He was Darius Thorne, CEO, visionary, king, and he didn't have a dime to his name. He looked at his hands. They were shaking uncontrollably. He realized with a terrifying clarity that the storm from last night had not ended. It had just moved inside his house, and he had no umbrella. Darius ran. He did not have a car. He did not have a driver. He had to run. The pavement burned through the soles of his dress shoes. His Italian loafers were not made for sprinting on asphalt. They were made for boardrooms. For carpets. Now they were scuffed, ruined. Just like his pride, he burst through the automatic doors of TOS. Providence General. The air conditioning hit him like a wall of ice. It chilled the sweat on his neck instantly. He shivered. He looked wild. His hair was disheveled. His eyes were bloodshot. His expensive suit was wrinkled and stained with sweat. He marched to the front desk. Where is he? He slammed his hand on the counter. The sound echoed in the quiet lobby. Where is who, sir? The receptionist did not look up. She continued typing. Click, click, click. My son. Zion Thorne. He was admitted last night. Seizures, high fever. Which room is he in? The receptionist finally looked up. She scanned him from head to toe. Her gaze lingered on his rumpled shirt. She wrinkled her nose slightly. As if he smelled bad. He probably did. He smelled of stale champagne and desperation. Name. Darius Thorne. I am the father. She typed the name. She stared at the screen. Her eyebrows went up. Oh, she said it simply. He has been moved. Moved. Moved where? Did you discharge him? He was dying last night. No, sir. He was transferred. She pointed a manicured finger toward the elevators at the far end of the hall. Top floor. The Sterling Wing. Darius froze. The Sterling Wing. Everyone in Atlanta knew the Sterling Wing. It was not just a hospital ward. It was a 5-star hotel with medical equipment. It was reserved for politicians, celebrities, billionaires. Why was his son there? Amara. It had to be Amara. She must have begged her parents. Her father must have sold his house to pay for it. That old man always tried to show off Darius. Scoffed. Fine. I will go get him myself. He turned and marched toward the elevators. He pressed the button. The arrow lit up gold. The doors opened. He stepped inside. He pressed the button for the penthouse. Level. The elevator rose, smooth, silent. Fast, his ears popped. He adjusted his tie in the mirrored wall. He tried to smooth his hair. He needed to look in control. He needed to look like the CEO. Amara was just throwing a tantrum. He would go in there. He would yell at her for freezing the accounts. He would demand she fix it. Then he would take Zion home. The elevator chimed. A soft, polite ding. The doors slid open. The atmosphere changed instantly. Downstairs, it smelled of antiseptic and floor wax. Up here, it smelled of fresh lilies and money. The air was cool and still. The carpet was thick. It swallowed the sound of his footsteps. Darius walked down the corridor. It was lined with artwork. Real paintings. Not prints. He saw the double doors at the end of the hall. They were frosted glass. Massive, intimidating. Two men stood in front of them. They were not hospital security. They were private contractors. They wore black suits that cost more than Darius's car. They wore earpieces. They stood with their hands clasped in front of them. They looked like statues carved out of granite. Darius walked up to them. He puffed out his chest. Move. He barked the command. The men did not move. They did not blink. One of them stepped forward. Just one step. It was enough to block the entire hallway. Name. The guard's voice was deep. It rumbled in his chest. Darius Thorne. I am the father of the patient in that room. Let me in. The guard pulled a small tablet from his pocket. He tapped the screen. He scrolled down a list. Thorne. He said the name as if it tasted sour. You are not on the list, Darius. Felt the blood rush to his face. A vein in his temple began to throb. List. What list? I am his father. I have a legal right to see my son. Not here. The guard put the tablet away. This is a private, secure facility. Access is by invitation only. And you, sir, are explicitly banned. Darius laughed. It was a high-pitched, hysterical sound. Who banned me? My wife, Amara. He tried to push past the guard. Amara, tell these gorillas to let me in. He shouted at the glass doors. The guard moved. Fast. Darius did not even see it happen. One moment he was shouting. The next moment a hand the size of a dinner plate slammed into his chest. It was not a shove. It was a wall. Darius stumbled back. He almost fell. He caught his balance against the wall. Do not touch me, Darius snarled. Do you know who I am? I am the CEO of Thorne Enterprises. I can buy and sell you. I can have your job in 5 minutes. The guard looked at him. His expression did not change. It was calm. Board Thorne Enterprises. The guard asked, Yes, Thorne Enterprises. Darius straightened his jacket. The guard smirked. A tiny crack in the stone face. Thorne Enterprises is a subsidiary of Citadel Capital. Citadel Capital is owned by the Sterling Family Trust. Darius blinked. What? He shook his head. You don't know what you are talking about. The guard took a step closer. He loomed over Darius. He smelled of peppermint and gun oil. I know exactly what I'm talking about. He leaned down. His voice dropped to a whisper. Amara Sterling owns Citadel. She owns the trust. She owns the building we are standing in. And she owns Thorne Enterprises. Darius felt the world tilt on its axis. Amara Sterling. His wife's maiden name was Sterling. But Smith is a common name. Jones is a common name. Sterling is just a name. Langston Sterling. The name hit him like a physical blow. His father-in-law. The old man he had ignored at the wedding. The man he thought was a retired shopkeeper. Langston Sterling was the chairman of Sterling Industries, the richest man in the state. Darius felt his knees turn to water. He looked at the guard. He looked for a lie in the man's eyes. He found none. So you see, Mr. Thorne, The guard straightened up. He adjusted his cuff. You are not a CEO here. You are not a boss. You are not a king. He pointed a finger at Darius's chest. You are just an employee. A fired employee. And you are trespassing on company property. The words hung in the air, heavy final. Just an employee. Darius opened his mouth. No sound came out. He looked past the guard's shoulder, through the frosted glass of the double doors. He saw a silhouette. It was Amara. She was standing by the window. She was holding a glass of red wine. She looked regal, calm, powerful. She turned her head. She looked toward the door. She couldn't see him clearly, but he knew she was looking at him. She did not wave. She did not come to the door. She did not cry. She simply turned her back. She turned her back on him, just like he had turned his back on her phone. Call last night. The message was clear. You are nothing. Darius felt a cold sweat break out on his forehead. The elevator chimed behind him. Take the ride down, Mr. Thorne, the guard said softly. Before we carry you down, Darius looked at the guard. He looked at the closed doors. He realized then that the glass was not there to keep the world out. It was there to keep the trash out. And for the first time in his life, Darius Thorne knew exactly what he was. He turned around. He walked to the elevator. His legs felt heavy. Lead. He pressed the button. He did not look back. The doors closed. The golden light of the Sterling wing disappeared. He was going down back to the street. Back to the heat. Back to the reality where he was no longer a king. He was just a man who had lost everything. And he didn't even know he had it until it was gone. The sidewalk outside the hospital was hot. Heat radiated from the concrete. It baked the soles of my shoes. I stood there, alone. People walked past me. They held phones. They carried coffees. They lived normal lives. They did not know that the man standing next to the trash can was a ghost. I was Darius Thorne, CEO, millionaire. But my pockets were empty. My cards were plastic scrap. My son was locked in a tower I could not enter. And my wife was a stranger who owned the ground I walked on. I needed money. Panic clawed at my throat. It tasted like bile. I needed cash. I needed a lawyer. I needed to fight back. But you cannot fight a war without ammunition. I thought of the safe in my study. The one Amara had emptied. The yellow sticky note, the memory made my hands shake. But then, a thought. A spark in the darkness. I had another safe. It was not made of steel. It was not hidden behind a painting. It was living in a penthouse on Peachtree Avenue. KIARA. I smiled. A desperate, manic smile. I had spent a fortune on her. The diamond necklace, $50,000. The Cartier bracelets, $30,000. The Hermes bags. The cash I gave her for emergencies. It was easily $200,000 in liquid assets. It was my money. I gave it to her. She would give it back. She loved me. She hated Amara. We were a team. I checked my watch. The Patek Philippe was the only thing Amara hadn't taken yet. I could sell the watch later. First, I needed the jewelry. I ran to the curb. I waved down a taxi. I had no cash. I knew that. But I didn't care. I would get the cash from Kiara. I would pay the driver double when we got there. The ride was a blur. I stared out the window. I planned my comeback. I would take the jewelry. I would sell it. I would hire the best shark lawyer in Atlanta. I would sue Amara for everything. I would win. I always won. The taxi pulled up to the high-rise. The glass tower glittered in the sun. I jumped out. Wait, you didn't pay, the driver yelled. I ignored him. I ran into the lobby. I told the doorman to pay the taxi. Put it on apartment 25B. The doorman looked at me. He knew me. I was the generous boyfriend who tipped with $100 bills. Today, he did not. Smile. Mr. Thorne. He stepped in front of the elevator bank. I am afraid I cannot let you up. Move. I tried to push past him. The elevators are locked out for that unit, sir. Management orders. I stopped. Locked out. Power and utilities for Unit 25B have been disconnected. due to non-payment. And the key fobs have been deactivated. Amara. She was thorough. She didn't just freeze my accounts. She froze my life. She cut the power to my mistress's apartment. I looked at the stairwell. Door. Fine. I spat the word. I will walk. 20-5 floors. I started climbing. The stairwell was concrete, cold, echoing. It smelled of dust and damp cement. First floor, second floor. My breath came easy. I was fit. 10th floor, my legs began to burn. The air grew stale. 15th floor, my heart hammered against my ribs. Sweat soaked my shirt. My expensive Italian suit clung to my back like a wet rag. 20th floor. My lungs were on fire. I gasped for air. My vision blurred. This was Amara's punishment. She wanted me to crawl. She wanted me to suffer for every step I took toward my mistress. 25th floor, I burst through the door. I stumbled into the hallway. I gasped. I leaned against the wall. I wiped the sweat from my eyes. I walked to door to 5B. It was ajar. I pushed it open. Kiara. I called out. My voice was a croak. The apartment was hot, stifling. Without a C, the glass box was a greenhouse. The sun beat down through the floor to ceiling. Windows. The air smelled of panic. It smelled of chaos. Clothes were everywhere. Designer dresses, silk scarves, shoes, suitcases were open on the floor. 3 massive Louis Vuitton trunks. Kiara was standing by the sofa. She was packing. Fast, she was throwing things into the bags. No folding. No care. Just shoving. She looked up. She screamed. A short, sharp sound. Darius? She looked at me. She did not look like the birthday girl from yesterday. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun. She wore no makeup. She wore jeans and a t-shirt. She looked ... cheap. What happened to you? She pointed at my face. I must have looked like a madman, red-faced, sweating. Wild-eyed ... Never mind me. I walked into the room. I kicked a pile of clothes aside. Amara froze the accounts. She cut the power. We need to move fast. I reached for her arm. Where is the necklace? The Harry Winston. And the bracelets. Get 'em? We need to pawn them. Kiara pulled her arm away. She took a step back. She asked. Her voice was cold. Yes, we. I looked around. Where is the cash? The emergency fund I gave you? The 50,000. Kiara laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was a sharp, brittle sound. Like glass breaking. There is no we, Darius. She turned back to her suitcase. She threw a pair of Jimmy Choos on top of a silk blouse. What are you talking about? I grabbed her shoulder. I spun her around. I left my wife for you. I lost my son for you. I lost my company for you. Now give me the money so we can fix this. She looked at my hand on her shoulder. She looked at it with disgust. You didn't leave your wife, Darius. She kicked you out. She shoved me hard. I stumbled back. I was weak from the climb. Asterisk, and you didn't lose your company. You never owned it, she sneered. I saw the news. I saw the tweets. Amara Sterling owns everything. You are just a broke loser who played dress up. The words hit me. Harder than the guard at the hospital. Kiara, baby. I tried to soften my voice. I tried to use the charm that always worked. We love each other. Remember? Yesterday? The birthday candles? You said I was your hero. Yesterday you were a rich CEO. Today you are a beggar. She zipped up the suitcase. The sound was loud in the silent room. Z-zip. I don't date beggars. She grabbed the handle of the trunk. I stood there, frozen. The betrayal was physical. It felt like a punch to the gut. Give me the jewelry. My voice dropped. It became dangerous. That is my property. I bought it. Gift. She said simply. Legally, it is a gift. Once given, it cannot be retrieved. She pulled a passport from her purse. And a ticket. I saw the logo on the ticket sleeve. Emirates First Class. Where are you going? Dubai. She checked her reflection in the mirror. She smoothed her hair. With who? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. I saw another passport peeking out of her bag. A blue one. American. The name on the ticket was visible. Jason Meyer. Jason Meyer. My rival. The real estate tycoon I had introduced her to at a gala last month. You. I couldn't breathe. You were cheating on me. She laughed again. Darius, please. You were cheating on your wife. Don't act so moral. She walked to the door. She dragged the heavy suitcase. Jason has a private jet. He isn't flying commercial. And he certainly isn't walking up 25 flights of stairs. She stopped at the threshold. She looked back at me, one last look. There was no love in her eyes. There was no pity. There was only calculation. You should go, Darius. The landlord is coming in an hour to change the locks. You don't want to be here when the police arrive. She opened the door. Oh, and thanks for the birthday party. The cake was delicious. She stepped out the door, clicked shut. I was alone. I stood in the sweltering heat of the apartment. I looked at the empty hangers in the closet. I looked at the dust motes dancing in the sun. She took it all. The jewelry, the cash, the dignity. She left me with nothing but the sweat on my back and the echo of her laughter. I walked to the window. I looked down at the city. Atlanta stretched out before me. Yesterday, I owned this city. Today, I was just another insect crawling on the glass. My stomach grumbled. A loud, painful sound. I realized I hadn't eaten in 24 hours. I had no money for food. I looked at my wrist, the Patek Philippe. It was my last lifeline. I unclasped it. The metal was warm from my skin. I held it up to the light. The diamonds sparkled. This watch was worth $100,000. It could buy me a lawyer. It could buy me a hotel room. It could buy me a meal. I put it in my pocket. I walked to the door. I had to walk down 25 flights of stairs. But this time I wasn't running toward hope. I was walking into the abyss. And the worst part? I deserved it. Lies travel faster than the truth, especially when the liar knows how to cry. Darius Thorne had no money. He had no home. But he had a phone. And he had a mother who knew how to put on a show. They sat in a cheap motel room on the outskirts of Atlanta. The wallpaper was peeling. The light was yellow and dim. Darius wore his rumpled suit. He looked pathetic. He looked broken, perfect for the camera. He set up his phone. He started a live stream. Title: The Truth About the Sterling Heiress. Within minutes, the viewer count ticked up. 1,000. 5,000. 50,000. People love a tragedy, especially when it involves the fall of the rich. Darius looked into the camera. He squeezed out a tear. It rolled down his bruised cheek. Hello, everyone. I did not want to do this. I am a private man. But she left me no choice. He sniffed loudly. My wife, Amara Sterling. She is the daughter of a billionaire. I am just a man who worked hard to build a company. But because I forgot her birthday, she destroyed me. His mother, Mrs. Carolina Thorne, sat beside him. She dabbed her eyes with a tissue. She is a monster, Mrs. Thorne wailed. Her voice was shrill. My poor son. He worked day and night for that family. And how does she repay him? She steals his money. She steals his son. She won't let us see our grandson. She grabbed Darius's hand. She thinks because she has money she can buy the law. She thinks she can trample on us. Please, help us fight this injustice. The comment section exploded. It was a river of hate, directed straight at Amara. Rich witch. Boycott Sterling Industries. Justice for Darius. The internet mob had found its villain. And it wasn't the cheater. It was the mother who fought back. At the Sterling State, the atmosphere was different. It was quiet, cool, controlled. Amara sat in her father's study. She watched the live stream on a large tablet. Her face was unreadable. She sipped a cup of herbal tea. Malik stood next to her. He was pacing. His hands were clenched. We need to shut this down, Amara. We can sue for defamation. I can have that stream taken down in 5 minutes. No. Amara placed the teacup on the saucer. Clink. Let him talk. Let him dig the hole deeper. She stood up. She smoothed her black dress. He wants attention. Fine. I will give him the biggest stage in the world. Book the ballroom at the Ritz-Carlton. Invite every major news outlet. Tell them Amara Sterling is ready to speak the next morning. 9 a.m. The grand ballroom of the Ritz-Carlton was packed. It smelled of expensive coffee and nervous sweat. Hundreds of reporters jostled for position. Cameras flashed like lightning storms. They were hungry. They smelled blood in the water. They expected a catfight. They expected a scorned woman trying to defend her cruelty. Darius was watching from a bar across town. He nursed a cheap beer. He smirked. He thought he had one. He thought she would crumble under the pressure. The side door opened. The room went. Silent. Amara walked in. She did not look like a monster. She did not look like a victim. She looked like a queen. She wore a simple black dress. No jewelry. Her hair was pulled back. Her face was pale, but her eyes were sharp. She walked to the podium. She placed a single folder on the wood surface. She looked out at the sea of faces. A reporter from CNN stood up. Ms. Sterling, your husband claims you froze his assets and kidnapped his son because of a missed birthday. Is it true that you are using your family's wealth to punish a simple mistake? The room held its breath. Amara leaned into the microphone. A simple mistake. Her voice was low, clear. It carried to the back of the room. If abandoning a dying child is a simple mistake, then yes, I am guilty. The reporter frowned. Dawn child. Mr. Thorne said Zion had a cold. Amara did not argue. She signaled to the technician in the back. Look at the screen. The massive LED screen behind her lit up. It was bright enough to hurt the eyes. First image. A medical report. The text was blown up. Everyone could read it. Patient Zion Thorne. Age 4. Admission. Time 2:15 a.m. October 20th. Diagnosis. Acute pneumonia. Febrile seizure. Respiratory failure. Temperature. 105.2 degrees. Gasps rippled through the room. 105 degrees is not a cold. 105 degrees is brain damage. 105 degrees is death. Amara continued, this is the medical reality my son faced. 3 nights ago, she clicked a button. The screen changed. Now it was a split screen. On the left, a grainy black and white video. Security footage from the hospital entrance. It showed a woman, soaking wet, barefoot, running into the ER with a limp child in her arms. It was Amara. She looked terrified. She looked like she was breaking apart. On the right, a high-definition video, taken from a social media story. It showed a luxury hotel suite. Candles flickered. Jazz music played. A man was laughing. He held a glass of champagne. He was kissing a woman on the cheek. The time stamp on both videos was identical. 2:20 a.m. The contrast was brutal. It was visceral. On the left, agony on the right, ecstasy. The reporters began to murmur. The cameras clicked faster. But Amara was not done. She had one more weapon. The nuclear option. She looked directly into the camera lens. She stared straight at Darius wherever he was watching. My husband says I froze his money because I was jealous. He says he was working. He says he is a good father. She paused. Let us listen to the good father. She pressed play. The audio system of the ballroom crackled. Then a voice filled the room. Darius's voice, a fever. Again, what kind of mother are you, Amara? The tone was dismissive. Cold. Then Amara's voice, choked with sobs. He is having seizures, Darius. Please come home. Then the punchline. I cannot leave. I am in a crucial meeting. And immediately after, the sound of a woman. Darius, baby, come blow out the candles. And Darius's reply, the voice of a man in love, not a man in a meeting. Coming right now, babe. Happy birthday. The recording ended. Silence. Absolute. Heavy silence. You could hear a pin drop on the carpet. The reporters lowered their notepads. They looked at each other. They looked at the screen. The narrative had shifted. The ground had moved. Darius Thorne was not a victim. He was a monster. He was a man who left his dying son to eat cake with his mistress. Amara leaned back into the mic. I am not a saint. I am a mother. Her voice trembled slightly. Just enough to be real. I did not freeze his assets out of spite. I reclaimed the money that belonged to my son. The money that was funding his betrayal while my child fought for breath. She picked up her folder. My husband wanted the world to know the truth. Now you know. She turned and walked away. She did not answer any more questions. She did not have to. The evidence spoke louder than any interview back in the bar. Darius stared at the TV screen. His mouth was open. His beer was warm. The bartender was watching too. He looked at the screen. Then he looked at Darius. He recognized him. Get out. The bartender slammed a glass. Down, we don't serve deadbeats here. Darius looked around. Every patron in the bar was looking at him. Their eyes were filled with disgust. He stood up. He stumbled. He ran out the door. He checked his phone. The comments on his live stream had changed. Monster, I hope you rot. You deserve nothing. The internet mob had turned. And this time, they were coming for him. Amara Sterling had destroyed him. Not with a shout. Not with a slap, but with the truth. And the truth was the one thing Darius Thorne could not survive. Desperation is a dangerous drug. It makes smart men stupid. It makes proud men reckless. And Darius Thorne was overdosing on it. He sat on a borrowed scooter. It was rusted. The engine sputtered. It smelled of unburnt fuel and failure. He was parked across the street from the Primrose Academy. It was the most exclusive preschool in Atlanta. The tuition cost more than most people earned in a year. The sun beat down on his neck. He was wearing a helmet with a cracked visor. Underneath, he was sweating. His mother's voice echoed in his head. Go get him, Darius. He is your son. She cannot keep him from you. Possession is 9/10 of the law. Bring the boy to me. We will make her pay to see him again. It was a kidnapping plan, masquerading as fatherly rights. Darius gripped the handlebars. His knuckles were white. He told himself he was doing this for Zion. A boy needs his father. Amara was brainwashing him, but deep down he knew the truth. He didn't want the boy. He wanted the leverage. He wanted the check Amara would write to get him back. The school bell rang. It was a cheerful sound. A bright electric chime. The heavy iron gates swung open. A flood of children poured out. They wore navy blue uniforms. They laughed. They ran. They looked like a wave of innocence. Darius scanned the crowd. His eyes darted back and forth. Where is he? Then he saw him. Zion. He was walking with his teacher, Ms. Emily. She was young, pretty. She was holding his hand. Zion looked happy. He was holding a painting. A bright splash of yellow and green. Darius felt a pang of jealousy. How dare he be happy? How dare he smile when his father was sleeping in a motel room with cockroaches? Darius kicked the kickstand up. He pushed the scooter onto the sidewalk. He took off the helmet. He ran. He didn't run like a father greeting his child. He ran like a predator. Zion. He shouted the name. Zion looked up. He stopped. He saw the man running toward him. The man with the bruised face. The man with the wild eyes. The man in the dirty clothes. He didn't recognize him at first. Then he did. Daddy? It wasn't a happy greeting. It was a question, terrified and small. Darius didn't stop. He lunged. He grabbed Zion's arm. He gripped it hard. Too hard. Come here. We are leaving. He pulled. Zion stumbled. He dropped his painting. It landed in a puddle. The bright colors began to bleed into the mud. No. Zion screamed. He dug his small shoes into the pavement. I don't want to go. Ms. Emily stepped in. She was shaking, but she was brave. Sir, let go of the child. I am calling security. Darius shoved her back off. I am his father. I have rights. He dragged Zion toward the scooter. Zion was crying now. Hysterical sobs. Mommy. Mommy, help. The sound of his son screaming didn't stop Darius. It made him panic. "Shut up, Zion! Get on the bike!" He yanked the boy's arm. Zion tripped. His knee hit the asphalt. Skin tore. Blood began to ooze through his uniform pants. That was the moment the crowd turned. The other parents stopped loading their luxury SUVs. They saw the blood. They heard the screams. They didn't see a father. They saw a kidnapper. Phones came out. A wall of cameras pointed at Darius. "Hey, let him go." Someone call 911. "Is that Darius Thorne?" "The guy from the news." Darius looked around. He was surrounded. A circle of judgment. He pulled harder. He was going to drag the boy, if he had to. Screech! The sound of tires locking on asphalt pierced the air. 2 black Cadillacs mounted the curb. They drove right onto the sidewalk. They stopped inches from Darius. The doors flew open. 4 men stepped out. They were huge. They moved with military precision. Darius didn't have time to react. A hand grabbed his shoulder. Another grabbed his wrist. Pressure. Pain. His arm was twisted behind his back. He was slammed face first into the hood of the car. The metal was hot from the engine. It burned his cheek. "Let me go. I am his father." He screamed into the metal. The rear door of the second Cadillac opened. Amara stepped out. She didn't run. She walked. The crowd parted for her. She walked straight to Zion. Ms. Emily was holding him. The boy was shaking. Blood stained his sock. Amara knelt down. She touched his face. "Are you okay, baby?" Zion threw his arms around her neck. He buried his face in her shoulder. "He hurt me, Mommy. He is scary." Amara closed her eyes for a second. She inhaled deeply. When she opened them, the warmth was gone. Her eyes were 2 chips of black ice. She stood up. She turned toward the car. Where Darius was pinned, she walked over to him. The bodyguards stepped back. But they kept their hands ready. "Lift him up," she ordered. The guards hauled Darius upright. He looked at her. He tried to smile. A pathetic attempt at charm, Amara. "Listen, I just wanted to see him. I miss him." "You can't keep a father from crack." The sound echoed off the school walls. It was louder than the bell. Louder than the screams. Amara's hand connected with his face. It wasn't a slap of passion. It wasn't a slap of a lover's quarrel. It was an execution. Darius's head snapped to the side. A trickle of blood appeared at the corner of his mouth. The crowd gasped. Amara didn't shout. She didn't scream. She stepped closer. Her voice was a low, deadly whisper. "You touched him." She pointed to Zion's bleeding knee. "You made him bleed, Darius. Stamed. It was an accident." He tripped. "Amara, please. You lost the right to speak his name the night you left him to die." She leaned in. Her breath hit his ear. "If you ever come near him again, I won't call the police. I will handle it myself. Do you understand?" Darius looked into her eyes. He saw something terrifying. He saw the end. In the distance, sirens began to wail. Blue lights flashed against the brick walls of the school. The police were here. Amara stepped back. She wiped her hand on a silk handkerchief. Then she dropped the handkerchief in the dirt. As if touching him had made her. "Dirty. Take him," she said to the officers running toward them. Grand larceny, breaking a restraining order, and attempted kidnapping. The police grabbed Darius. They cuffed his hands behind his back. The steel clicked shut. Darius looked at the crowd. Hundreds of phones recorded his shame. This video would be online in minutes. The great CEO being dragged away. Like a common thug, he looked back at Zion. The boy was watching. He wasn't crying anymore. He was just watching. And in his son's eyes, Darius saw no love, no recognition. He saw only relief that the monster was going away. The police shoved Darius into the back of the cruiser. The door slammed shut. He watched through the wire mesh as Amara picked up Zion. She carried him to the Cadillac. She didn't look back. Not once. The car drove away. Darius was left alone in the cage. The smell of old vomit and stale sweat surrounded him. He rested his head against the window. He realized then that his mother was wrong. Possession isn't 9/10 of the law. Power is, and he had none left. But the worst was yet to come because the courtroom was waiting. And Amara Sterling had one last document too. Reveal a document that would erase him from existence. Completely dot the district courthouse. Smelled of old wood, polish, and stale anxiety. It was a smell that stuck to the back of your throat. Darius Thorne sat at the defendant's table. He wore a suit he bought at a thrift store. The sleeves were too short. The collar was too tight. It dug into his neck like a noose. He was sweating, but under the sweat there was a glimmer of hope, a small, desperate spark. He looked at his lawyer, a court-appointed attorney named Mr. Henderson. Henderson smelled of cheap tobacco and looked like he hadn't slept in a week. But Darius didn't care. He knew the law, or he thought he did. Georgia is an equitable distribution state. That was the phrase he kept repeating in his head. Equitable distribution. It meant fair. It meant 50-50. Thorne Enterprises was built during their marriage. The mansion was bought during their marriage. The cars, the art, the investments. Legally, half of it was his. Amara could divorce him. She could hate him. She could ban him from the hospital, but she would have to pay him. He did the math in his head. Even if the company was bankrupt, the assets were worth millions. Half of millions was still a fortune. He looked across the aisle. Amara sat there. She looked untouchable. She wore a white suit, sharp, pristine. She looked like a marble statue carved by a master. She did not look at him. She stared straight ahead at the judge's bench. Malik Jeff sat beside her. He was relaxed. He tapped a gold pen against his legal pad. Tap, tap, tap. The sound was rhythmic. Hypnotic. All rise. The bailiff shouted. Judge Harrison walked in, black robes flowing. He looked bored. He had seen 1,000 divorces. He expected this to be just another fight over silverware and dogs. He sat down, be seated. Darius sat. His chair squeaked. Mr. Henderson stood up. He cleared his throat. It was a wet, nervous sound. Your Honor, my client agrees to the divorce. However, we contest the asset division. Mr. Thorne was the CEO of Thorne Enterprises for 5 years. He built that company. We request a 50% share of all marital assets, including the Sterling Trust investments. Darius nodded. He tried to look confident. He tried to look like a victim of a vengeful wife. The judge looked at Malik. Mr. Jeff, your response. Malik did not stand up immediately. He stopped tapping his pen. He opened his briefcase. The latches clicked. Snap. Snap. He pulled out a single document. It was not a thick stack of papers. It was thin. Just 3 pages. The paper looked slightly yellowed. Aged. Malik stood up. He buttoned his jacket. Your Honor, before we discuss division, we must discuss ownership. He walked to the bench. He placed the document in front of the judge. He walked to the defense table. He placed a copy in front of Darius. Darius looked down. The header was in bold, black letters. Prenuptial agreement. Darius frowned. What is this? He whispered. I never signed a prenup. He looked at the date, May 15th, 5 years ago. He looked at the signature at the bottom of the last page. It was his signature, but it was messy. The loops were too big. The lines were shaky. It looked like the handwriting of a child or a drunk man. A memory flashed in his brain. Bright lights, loud music, the smell of tequila and lime. His bachelor party, the night before the wedding. He was wasted. He was celebrating his entry into the high life. He remembered Amara coming into the VIP room. She was smiling. She was holding a folder. Just some paperwork for the marriage license, baby. Sign here so we can fly to the honeymoon tomorrow. He remembered laughing. He remembered grabbing the pen. He didn't read it. Why would he read it? She was his little obedient wife. She wouldn't hurt him. He signed it. Then he took another shot. He had signed his own death warrant with a shot of patron. Malik's voice cut through the memory. Your Honor, this agreement clearly states that all assets brought into the marriage, and all assets created using sterling capital, remain the sole property of Amara Sterling. Malik turned to look at Darius. Mr. Thorne was never a partner. He was never a co-owner. Legally speaking, he was a project funded by his wife. The judge adjusted his glasses. He read the clause for A. In the event of infidelity or gross negligence, the spouse forfeits all claims to alimony and support. The judge looked up. He looked at Darius. Mr. Thorne, is this your signature? Darius couldn't speak. His tongue felt like dry cotton. He looked at Amara. She turned her head slowly. She met his gaze. Her eyes were not angry. They were amused. She knew. She had known for 5 years. Every time he acted arrogant, every time he spent her money, every time he dismissed her, she knew she had this paper in a safe deposit box. She had let him play king, knowing she could take the crown whenever she wanted. Darius stood up. His chair fell over with a crash. She tricked me. I was drunk. I didn't know what I was signing. The judge banged his gavel. Sit down, Mr. Thorne. Intoxication is not a defense for a contract signed in the presence of a notary. Notary. Darius looked at the document again. There it was. The stamp. The witness signature. Otis, the security guard. He had been there too, standing in the shadows of the club, witnessing the groom sign away his future. It was a trap. A long, slow 5-year trap. The judge cleared his throat. The ruling is simple. The prenuptial agreement is valid. He turned a page. Mr. Thorne, you leave this marriage with exactly what you brought into it. 0. The word hung in the air. 0. Furthermore, based on the evidence of the misappropriated funds used to support Ms. Vance, the court orders you to repay $1.5 million to the Sterling Trust. $1.5 million. Darius laughed. It was a sound of madness. I don't have it. I don't have $1. The judge shrugged. Then your wages will be garnished for the rest of your life. Case closed. The gavel banged. It sounded like a gunshot. Amara stood up. She gathered her things. She walked toward the exit. She had to pass the defense table. Darius slumped in his chair. He felt hollow. He felt stripped. Amara stopped. She stood right next to him. She smelled of lilies and victory. She leaned down. Her lips were inches from his ear. Do you want to know the funny part, Darius? She whispered. Her voice was soft, intimate. I never planned to use it. She paused. I kept it in the dark. I hoped you would be a good husband. I hoped you would be a good father. If you had just loved us. I would have burned this paper. She straightened up. She looked down at him with pity. But you got greedy. You got cruel. She tapped the table with her fingernail. I didn't destroy you, Darius. You signed your name on the dotted line. I just filed the paperwork. She walked away. Her heels clicked on the wooden floor. Click, click, click. Click. The sound of a ticking clock. That had finally run out. Darius watched her go. He looked down at his hands. The hands that had signed the paper. He grabbed his own wrist. He squeezed until it hurt. He wanted to scream. He wanted to rage. But there was no one left to listen. The courtroom emptied. Even his own lawyer packed up and left without a word. Darius sat alone in the silence. He realized then that Amara was not just rich. She was not just powerful. She was smart. Terrifyingly smart. And he had been the fool, playing checkers while she was playing 3-dimensional chess. He stood up slowly. He had to leave. He had to go out into the world, a world where he owed $1 million. A world where he had no son, no wife, no future. He walked to the heavy wooden doors. He pushed them open. Outside the sun was shining. Birds were singing. It felt like a mockery. He stepped out onto the courthouse steps. And that was when he saw him. The man in the suit standing by the fountain. He was smiling. He held a briefcase. He looked like an investor. He looked like hope. Darius didn't know it yet. But this was not hope. This was the final nail in the coffin. This was the scam. And Darius Thorne was about to walk right into it. 3 years, that is 1,095 days. In prison time moves slowly. It drags like a heavy chain. Darius Thorne served his time. He survived the beatings. He survived the humiliation of cleaning toilets. He survived the nights where his cellmate stole his food. He thought prison was hell. He was wrong. Hell is not a cage. Hell is the world outside when you have no place in it. Darius was released early. Not for good behavior, but for sickness. His lungs were failing. The damp prison air had rotted them. He coughed constantly. A wet hacking sound that made people cross the street to avoid him. He stood on the corner of Peachtree Avenue. Winter had come early to Atlanta. The wind was a razor. It sliced through his thin jacket. The jacket was a donation from a shelter. It smelled of mothballs and other men's sweat. Darius pulled the collar up. His hands were blue. He wore gloves with the fingers cut off. His nails were black with grime. He looked at his reflection in a shop window. He saw a ghost. His hair was gray and matted. His skin was sallow. His eyes were sunk deep into his skull. This was the man who used to wear Italian suits. This was the man who used to command boardrooms. Now he was just a shadow, a stain on the sidewalk. He walked. He shuffled. His shoes had holes in the soles. The freezing slush seeped in. His feet were numb blocks of ice. He was not walking aimlessly. He had a destination. La Bilbaquette, the most expensive French restaurant in the city. He knew it well. He used to have a permanent table there. Table 12. By the window, today was a special date. November 10th, Zion's 7th birthday. Darius did not have a gift. He did not have a card. He did not even have the right to speak to the boy. The restraining order was permanent. But a father's instinct is a strange thing. Even a bad father feels the pull. He just wanted to see him. Just one glimpse. To confirm that his son was real. To confirm that he hadn't dreamt the whole life he used to have. He reached the restaurant. Warm golden light spilled out onto the wet pavement. It looked like liquid butter. Darius hid behind a large oak tree. He pressed his back against the rough bark. He tried to stifle a cough. He waited. The smell of food drifted out. Roasted duck, truffle oil, fresh bread. Darius's stomach cramped. He hadn't eaten in 2 days. The smell was torture. It made his mouth water and his gut twist at the same time. A valet opened the heavy wooden door. Laughter spilled out. The sound of crystal glasses clinking. The hum of happy rich people. A group walked out. Darius held his breath. It was them. Amara came out first. She was breathtaking. She wore a coat made of cream cashmere. It looked soft enough to sleep in. Her hair was loose, falling in shiny waves over her shoulders. She was laughing at something someone said. She looked younger, lighter. The lines of stress that used to mark her face when she was married to him were gone. She glowed. Then came Zion. Darius, single quotes as heart stopped. The boy had grown so much. He was tall, solid. He wore a little miniature suit with a bow tie. He looked like a prince. He was holding a balloon, a silver star. He was skipping, jumping, full of energy. And then the third person. Malik, Jeff, the lawyer. The friend. He walked beside them. He didn't walk behind them like a servant. He walked with them, like a protector. He wore a long, dark coat. He looked strong. Steady. Zion stopped on the sidewalk. He looked up at Malik. Darius strained his ears. He wanted to hear his son's voice. Papa Malik. Look, Papa. The word hit Darius like a bullet. It went straight through his chest. Papa Malik. Not Dad, not Uncle. Papa. Zion reached up. Malik reached down. He swung the boy up into his arms. Zion squealed with delight. He wrapped his small arms around Malik's neck. He buried his face in Malik's collar. It was a gesture of pure trust. Absolute safety. Darius remembered how Zion used to flinch when he came home. He remembered the fear in the boy's eyes. Zion never hugged him like that. Never Darius felt tears prick his eyes. They were hot and stinging. He took a step forward. Just one unconscious step. He wanted to yell, "That is my son. That is my blood." But then he froze. A car drove past. Its headlights swept across the sidewalk. For a second, the light hit the restaurant. Window. Darius saw his reflection in the glass. He saw the monster. The beggar. The filth. And right next to his reflection, he saw them. The perfect family. The contrast was brutal. It was undeniable. He was not part of that picture. He was a smudge on the glass. If he stepped out now, what would happen? Zion would scream. Amara would call the police. Malik would step in front of them to protect them from the crazy homeless man. He would only bring fear. He would only bring darkness to their light. Darius stopped. He lowered his foot. He shrank back into the shadows of the tree. He watched. Malik opened the door of a silver Rolls-Royce. He helped Amara in. He buckled Zion into the back seat. He treated them like treasure. Darius realized then that he never treated them like treasure. He treated them like furniture. Like things he owned. Malik got in the driver's side. The car started. A low, powerful purr. It pulled away from the curb. Darius watched the red taillights. They got smaller and smaller. They blurred in the mist, and then they were gone. They vanished into the night. Into their warm, happy future. Darius was left alone. The street was silent again. The wind howled. He slid down the trunk of the tree. He sat on the wet, cold ground. He pulled his knees to his chest. He didn't cry. He was too empty to cry. He just sat there. He realized the truth. Amara's revenge was not the prison sentence. It was not the bankruptcy. It was not the beatings. Those were just punishments for the body. This was the punishment for the soul. She had given him life. She let him live. She let him live so he could see exactly what he had thrown away. She let him exist. In the same world as her happiness, just so he could watch it from the outside. He was a ghost, haunting his own life. Darius looked at the restaurant window one last time. The table where they sat was being cleared. A waiter wiped away the crumbs. He blew out the candle. The light went out. Darkness returned. Darius closed his eyes. He took a breath. It rattled in his chest. He was erased. He was forgotten. And in the silence of the winter night, Darius Thorne finally understood. The opposite of love is not hate, it is indifference. They didn't hate him anymore. They didn't think about him at all. He was dust, and the wind was blowing him away.